Anna sat on the old wooden porch of her family's farmhouse, her tired eyes gazing out over the fields stretching far into the horizon. The sun had begun its descent, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange, but Anna barely noticed. Her thoughts were far away, clouded by the weight of the years that had come before her. She was no stranger to hardship. Born and raised in a small town in Montana, Anna's life had never been easy. The farm had always been a source of pride, but it also held an unspoken burden, one she had inherited the moment she was born. Her father, Henry, had worked the land his whole life, and his father before him. For generations, the farm had been passed down, and with each passing year, it seemed to demand more from those who tended it. Anna's mother had passed away when she was just 8 years old. Since then, she had been the one to keep the house running, cooking meals for her father, doing the laundry, and helping with the animals. Henry, a quiet man with rough hands and a heart as hard as the land they worked, had never been one for outward affection. His love was shown in the form of a steady, unspoken presence. But as the years went by, his health began to deteriorate. The hard work of the farm, combined with the stresses of running a household on his own, had taken a toll. Anna had always known that her life would be tied to the farm. When she graduated from high school, she had dreams like any other young woman. She wanted to leave Montana, to see the world beyond the dusty fields and narrow streets. But when her father's health took a sudden turn for the worse, those dreams faded. She stayed. She stayed out of duty, out of love, and out of necessity. The farm wasn't just a place, it was a legacy, a promise made long before her birth. But the reality of that promise was far harsher than she had ever imagined. It was the winter of her 26th year when things finally came to a head. The first snowstorm of the season hit in late November, heavier than usual, blanketing the land in a thick layer of snow. Anna had spent the better part of the morning bringing in firewood, securing the barn doors, and making sure the animals were all safe. The wind howled through the trees, but she barely noticed the cold. Her hands were frozen from the work, but it wasn't the cold that gnawed at her. It was the sense that everything was slipping out of her control. Her father had been bedridden for nearly a month, his illness worsening with each passing day. The doctors couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. All they knew was that the years of labor had taken their toll, and now it was time for him to pay the price. His once strong body had been reduced to a fragile shell, and Anna could do nothing but watch as he slipped further away. That afternoon, as Anna was preparing a meal in the kitchen, her father's voice called out to her from the bedroom. She wiped her hands on her apron and hurried to his side. Henry lay in bed, his face pale and drawn. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes were glazed with fever. "Anna," he rasped, his voice weak. "I'm sorry." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She knelt beside him, taking his rough hand in hers. "What are you talking about, Pa?" "I've failed you," he said, his voice trembling. "The farm. I couldn't keep it going. It's too much for you, and now I'm leaving you with nothing." Anna swallowed the lump in her throat. She had always known the farm was a heavy burden, but to hear her father speak those words out loud felt like a betrayal. He had always been so strong, so steady. To see him like this, broken, vulnerable, shattered something deep inside her. "Don't say that," Anna whispered. "We'll get through this. I'll keep the farm. You won't leave me alone." But deep down, Anna knew the truth. The farm wasn't just a piece of land, it was a battle. It was a fight against the seasons, the weather, and time itself. And time, as it turned out, was something they didn't have enough of. That night, after her father had fallen into a restless sleep, Anna sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the flickering flames in the stove. The weight of everything that had come before her, and everything that lay ahead, settled on her shoulders. She wasn't sure how much more she could take. In the days that followed, Anna did her best to keep the farm running, but it was a losing battle. The snow piled higher, making it impossible to get to town for supplies. The animals grew restless, the barn needed repairs, and her father's condition continued to worsen. She had no choice but to call for help. Her neighbors, though kind, had their own families and farms to tend to. They couldn't spare much time. And so, she soldiered on, day after day, until the land itself seemed to be conspiring against her. One cold afternoon, as Anna stood outside the barn trying to fix a broken fence, a truck pulled up the long dirt road. It was a vehicle she didn't recognize. The engine hummed softly as the driver cut the engine, and a man stepped out, his boots crunching in the snow. "Anna," he called out. Anna squinted against the snow and wind. "Yes?" The man smiled kindly. "I'm Sam. I saw your father's name on the property deed. I'm from the bank." Anna's heart sank. She knew what this meant. The bank had been threatening to foreclose for months. Her father's medical bills, combined with the failing crops and rising debts, had put them in a precarious position. "I'm sorry, but it's time," Sam said, his voice gentle but firm. The weight of the words hit Anna like a punch to the gut. She had known this day might come, but to hear it spoken aloud was a different matter entirely. "I can't lose it," Anna said, her voice breaking. "I've worked my whole life for this farm. I won't let it go." Sam's face softened, and he took a step closer. "I understand. But the bank has to make decisions. The land can't stay in your family forever if it can't be worked." Anna stood frozen, the wind biting at her skin. The snow had begun to fall heavier now, blurring the lines between land and sky. For a moment, she could barely breathe, the suffocating reality of her situation closing in on her. But then, something shifted within her. She wasn't ready to give up. She wouldn't let the legacy of her family slip away so easily. She had come too far, and she knew that as long as she had breath in her lungs, she would fight for this land. "I won't give up," she said, her voice steady now. "I'll find a way." Over the next several months, Anna fought tirelessly. She sold off what she could, taking odd jobs in town and even accepting help from the neighbors when they could offer it. It wasn't easy, but slowly, the farm began to recover. Her father, though weak, still held on, and with each passing day, Anna learned more about the land she had once taken for granted. She learned how to mend fences, how to tend to the animals, and how to survive the harsh winters. It was a long road, and the struggle was far from over. But Anna's heart had hardened in the fire of adversity. She had inherited not just the land, but the strength to endure it. As the years went by, Anna's name became synonymous with resilience. The farm, once on the brink of collapse, began to thrive again. And though her father had passed away long before that dream came to fruition, Anna knew that he would have been proud. The sun set that evening, casting a warm glow over the farm. Anna stood on the porch, gazing out at the fields. The weight of the past still rested on her shoulders, but she had learned how to carry it. And in the distance, the horizon seemed endless, full of promise, just as it had been when she was young. She wasn't alone anymore. The land was hers, and so was her future.